Josh, families often think that abuse means intentional harm, but under Arizona law, how do you explain the difference between abuse and neglect?
So Arizona law actually specifically defines abuse and neglect in a statute called the Adult Protective Services Act. And that statute provides special protections for the most vulnerable people here in Arizona. So under that statute, abuse is defined as one of several things. It can be an intentional injury that's caused by a caregiver or somebody in a position of trust. But it can also be other things that we don't typically think of as kind of colloquial abuse. It can be things like negligent acts and omissions, meaning that a caregiver does something that harms a resident that they shouldn't have done, or they fail to do something that they should have done. It can be things like sexual abuse, and it can also be things like exploitation, which is defined in the statute as basically using a individual for financial gain or their resources for your own personal financial gain. So abuse encompasses a large number of things in Arizona. Neglect, by contrast, is different. Neglect has a specific definition under that same statute, and it is the deprivation of food, water, shelter, or medical care that's necessary to maintain the health of an individual. So if someone's not getting care that they need for their health, that's neglect. If somebody is doing something that harms a resident, whether that's intentional or just by their own laziness or negligence, that's abuse.
What are some of the early warning signs of neglect that Arizona families often miss?
So in Arizona, there's a lot of neglect and abuse that gets missed because it happens slowly. So what we look for and what we tell parents and children of elderly people who are in nursing homes to look out for is the signs that things are just that they're just not being taken care of the way you might expect. Hygiene is a big issue. If a elderly person starts smelling bad or starts having clothes that look disheveled or not put on right, that can be a sign that the care is not quite what it needs to be in a nursing home or another kind of inpatient setting. In addition to that, look for behavioral changes in a residence. So as people get older, their personalities change a little bit, but parents or family members who are withdrawn, who seem abnormally angry or don't want to communicate or talk about things, that can be a warning sign that something's going on that needs to be investigated. In addition, look at other patients around the facility. If you hear or see or smell things that don't sound or smell like a place you would want your family member to be, that can be a sign that there's an institutional problem you need to investigate.
Are understaffing and poor training potential issues in nursing homes? And again, how did those types of things show up in the residents' daily care and condition?
Understaffing is a huge problem in nursing homes throughout the country, and particularly in Arizona. Most nursing homes are run by for-profit corporations, and they have a very strong incentive to cut the number of staff in a facility because it is the strongest driver of costs for their facilities. So if they decrease the number of costs, obviously that makes them more profitable. What that can do is it can mean there's not enough people to take care of a patient, and that can lead to neglect, people not getting the care that they need. And it can also lead to instances of abuse where caregivers just don't have the time to do things well or the right way. Some signs of that in homes, in nursing homes and assisted living facilities in Arizona. When you're at a facility, look and see, do you see staff members? Are there staff members available at the nursing station? Are there staff members coming in and checking in on your loved one while you're there and visiting? You should be concerned if you are not seeing staff members out and about. It also helps to check during the day and the night. Facilities will often staff higher during the day and then cut the number of staff significantly at night. And so a lot of injuries will happen at night because there's not sufficient people to care.
What if a family, brings up things that they're seeing with the staff at the nursing home and says, hey, I'm noticing, this issue with my loved one or that issue, and the staff kind of responds, oh, that's just aging. That's just the normal process. They're getting older, they're declining. What are some of the facts there that make you skeptical that it might be more than just that they're just aging?
So there's a couple of things. I think first of all, you need to look at the way that the facility is self-response. So if you're raising concerns to a care facility, there should be an official process that they should be walking through to let you know for you to say what the concern was, and for them to tell you how they've responded to that concern. So if you're not getting a real full-throated official response from a nursing home, that can be a warning sign that they're kind of throwing things off onto the normal aging process excuse. In addition to that, normal aging is a thing. It does happen, but it tends to happen more slowly. What you want to be aware of or skeptical of is what is causing this injury. Things like falls and injuries associated with them are not necessarily part of the normal aging process. Things like rapid changes in condition or rapid declines, if you are talking to your loved one on one day and they seem fine, and the next day they don't know where they are or they don't know what's happening. If that's new and it happens over a relatively short period of time, that's something you need to be concerned about. That can be a sign of an infection or another type of serious injury that you need to be treating rather than just writing off as part of the normal aging process. And so that's what you're really looking for, is rapid changes in the individual or things that come as a result of accidents. Those can be signs that this is not just a normal aging process.
Are there things that an Arizona family should be documenting right away if neglect is suspected? And how do you recommend that families document these types of things that they're noticing?
Yes. So if you suspect neglect or abuse in a facility, you should document everything. The nursing home is going to be making records and charts about their excuses or the reasons that they think these things are happening. And without photographs or documentation from you, that's going to be the only evidence that shows up during a potential lawsuit or investigation. So it's very important to keep track of what's going on. It does not have to be anything official. Even something as simple as this text message or a journal entry or a note to another family member can be sufficient for a lawyer or an investigator later to use to explain what was going on in the nursing home. In addition, if there are injuries or physical changes or issues that need to be that you can visually see, photographs are helpful. Nursing homes will tell you from time to time that you're not allowed to take pictures. That can be true in a common area, but if you're in the patient's room taking pictures of a loved one or a loved one's belongings, that's completely acceptable. And so if there are injuries like bruises or wounds like pressure ulcers, those are things that photographs can be very helpful about. Similarly, if there are problems with the hygiene or the cleanliness of the facility, a photo there says a lot and can really help an investigator to understand what it is that exactly made you concerned. So documentation is key, and that kind of documentation is important. The only thing that's more important than that is actually taking care of the health and safety of your loved one. And it should be said here that if there is a situation where you're concerned about their physical health and safety, the first step needs to be to get them help, whether that's calling 911 and getting them out of the facility, or making sure a nurse comes in to make sure the patient is okay.
And then finally, when is the right time to call a lawyer and have you get involved in the situation?
So the best situation for you is that you don't ever have to call a lawyer. You want to take steps to try to talk to staff to avoid having an injury occur. But once an injury does occur with a loved one, there are limitations on how quickly you can or how long you have to file a lawsuit. And evidence tends to disappear or change after an injury happens. So once a patient has been actually injured by somebody's abuse or neglect, it's important to reach out to a lawyer or a law firm or as quickly as you can, so that we can start taking action to preserve that evidence and preserve your rights in a potential lawsuit against the nursing home.